Welcome, Pravina Ladva, and thank you for taking part in the Embassy of Switzerland series on innovating in time of crisis. You are the Digital Transformation Officer and Chief Technology Officer of Live Capital at Swiss Re. What a time, by the way, to be the Digital Transformation Officer. That's fascinating. I'm the Ambassador of Switzerland to the United States of America, and we've been through very challenging times, times that are really fostering innovation. We have no choice but to. So in our case, we're speaking, of course, about Swiss innovation. Now, Swiss Re Group is one of the world's leading providers of reinsurance and insurance. Tell me about the insurance industry in the US and in Switzerland and your position in the US market.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you today. And you're right, it's a fantastic and almost time to have the role that I do, because, the current environment has really made it forefront of many people's mind. But maybe just a bit of context around Swiss Re. You're absolutely right. It's one of the leading providers of reinsurance and insurance, working to make the world more resilient. So that's our ambition and our goal, and that's what we do. The aim of the group is to really enable society and the communities thrive by us offering the right opportunities and solutions for our clients and our customers. So that's really what we do. But in terms of some generic information, US is one of our prime markets. Today, we have currently 2,500 colleagues that are based out of the US. And we are headquartered in Armonk in New York. That's where our head office is in the US. More globally, we've been in Zurich since 1863. We have about 15,500 colleagues around the world. And just Zurich alone, we have about 3,000. And those 3,000 folks are made up from 80 different nations. So it shows that for us, we're a very global organization, big presence in the US, and, attracting the right talent wherever we are is super key to our business. And then I think building on that in terms of, innovation, you talked about innovation. Innovation is at the heart of what we do, but it's here to serve a purpose in terms of the needs of our clients and our partners. So that gives you a bit of background around what we do, where we're based, and the close partnership we have with the communities that we work in.
So now let me ask the obvious question: has COVID changed the way you do business? How did you adapt? How was this incredible transition phase that you went through?
Yeah. With all of these things, it's a challenging time for everyone, but there's always two dimensions to these things. So from an internal perspective, we were very fortunate in that we already had a very robust, policy around home working. So our technology, our connectivity around video conferencing allowed the entire workforce almost immediately overnight to work from home. And that's a really fortunate position to be in. So in terms of working and getting the job done and being there to help our clients and partners, we're almost able to transition straight away. And that was because of the way we were working before that. So I think that was I know for many people it's been challenging, and working from home brings its own challenges, but technically we were able to do it. And then in terms of what that meant is we were then ready and available to help our clients and partners in terms of what they needed and to be able to provide the support, be able to answer queries, and also then use some of our own insights around data and technology to provide COVID-related information so that they could then work their businesses. Now, as an example, we're able to do analytics on whole supply chains to be able to tell people where the key risks are, food transportation, the public sector. So because we were able to switch straight away working from home, we were then in a great position to help our communities with the data that we had.
So one of the main challenges of homework or working from home was, of course, that the schools were closed too, at least for those with young children. But
Yes.
I've been talking to quite a few people in industries where they've actually production facilities, and to them, of course, the challenge was very different because there is quite a lot of work that can't be done with homework. So they had to adapt their ways, and you were in that sense a little bit ahead of the rest. Did you also change, or did it did it teach you a few lessons about changing your travel habits and
Well,
meeting
with that,
habits and meetings in
yeah,
person?
absolutely, without a doubt. So there is no, at the end of the day, there is no substitute for having personal contact. That social atmosphere
Yeah.
you get, whether it's meeting business customers or with colleagues in the office, and after a while, when we started all realizing actually this is here going to go on much longer than any of us predicted, we adapted quite quickly into replacing that, that coffee engagement, those face-to-face meetings with alternative methods. So, from building that community with the work colleagues, we did everything from, virtual coffee chats. And what we did realize, you had to get more disciplined about it because you weren't just going to bump into someone at the coffee machine. So you had to schedule things. You had to think more about, what are the different circumstances that people operating in. Some people had to look after elderly relatives. Some people, the kids being at school and with babies, and kindergarten not being available. So all of a sudden, you were dealing with different challenges. But what was really important was almost increasing that contact, even if it meant scheduling more meetings, because that was the only really way you got that contact. On the flip side, clearly overnight, everybody stopped traveling unless it was super, super urgent. And with that, it freed up more time. And bizarrely, that time became more productive. But the longer it's gone on for, we've all had to rebalance around maintaining a work-life balance, providing the things we have to do for extra responsibilities that we have at home, but also making sure we're connected with colleagues.
One of the challenges, and probably not to your industry, but certainly for the property developers, is that the office philosophy has been changing in a matter of a few months.
Mm.
We can see more and more industries like yours moving towards home, uh, working at home, like as a normal situation. So it's interesting to see this development from we were cramming more and more and more people into these open spaces bureau, trying to explain to them that this was the modern way to work, and in fact it was mainly about spending less money on their quality of life at the work. Well,
Mm.
that's my personal opinion. And
Yeah.
suddenly we might see an exile out of the city centers,
Yeah.
where everything is easier. We might see office buildings closing and whatever. What it probably will impact you directly too, won't it?
Yeah, no, it was, and you're right. The communities are, and this is a topic that's been debated quite a lot. Is really, if I look at the media and other organisations, people are very polarised around this topic. They're either everybody's going to work from home, or everybody's dying to get back to the office. My personal perspective, and actually what we've started seeing, is actually somewhere in the middle.
Hmm.
And what I mean by somewhere in the middle is, like for somebody who was going into the office 5 days a week, probably is now going to go, actually, maybe I don't need to be there 5 days a week. Maybe I'll go in 3. I think the working patterns will also change, where people traditionally went first thing in the morning and came back in the evening. Maybe the time of days people will work will also change. I think what the
Hmm.
current crisis has taught us is greater flexibility. And the old saying of work-life balance probably has become different and is more like work-life integration.
Yeah, when we speak about work-life balance, quite a few people did realize that bureau time or office time was also part of the work-life balance,
Yes.
and being at
Yeah.
home all the time might also be slightly unbalancing. Uh,
Yes.
and this has been quite an interesting development. Now for you. Do you see, especially as a digital transformation officer, do you see a risk that your industry could become more vulnerable, and especially more vulnerable to cyber attacks once you start, being on the internet on a grand scale, like everyone is working from home?
Mm.
How do you deal with the risks linked to that major presence on the
Yeah.
net?
No, absolutely. I mean, and that risk has always been there. And I guess I look at it from two lenses. One is has that risk heightened from our recent environment? And actually, what dynamic has it really changed? But I guess from a Swiss Re perspective, management of risk is what we do. That's our job. So we're always alert to these kind of changes in circumstances. But then if I look at, yes, clearly more people are working remotely, accessing Wi-Fi, have more time, and therefore you could say the risk has become bigger. And if you look if you listen to external reports, people have said there's been generically in the industry an uptick in more types of attacks and different types of attacks. So I think, but what we all have to continue doing, whether it's in our organization or any other organization, is continue to bolster our security, whether it's additional security that we put on our applications, but also providing adequate training and knowledge to our colleagues who use all our machines and our equipment. Because what you tend to find sometimes, yes, there's threats and attacks and all that kind of stuff, but it's normally a human element somewhere along that value chain that makes that a potential attack a reality. So I think it's a combination of education, training, awareness, and just being aware and alert. So I don't think the chances have increased, but I think the risk has always been there.
The COVID has been very disruptive to quite a couple of industries, and we have seen them readapting fundamentally their business model. Now we talked about, the dimension of remote work, which you had already anyway embarked upon, so that was not really new to you. But do you see the pandemic and the perspective of another, maybe worse pandemic hitting us in the next decades as changing fundamentally the business model of reinsurance and insurance?
If I'm honest, no, I don't. I think the model will always be there. And in fact, the purpose of organizations like us is to be the shock absorbers. That's why we're here, is to be the shock absorbers for society when things like this happen. So I think fundamentally the business model won't change. I think but if you examine the end-to-end value chain, what this does give an opportunity to, which I'm incredibly pleased about, is the opportunity to digitize. The opportunity to digitize things that previously we would not have considered doing. So if we talk to our, if I look at, the financial services as a whole, overnight, the call centers had to go to people's houses. Now, you would never have dreamt of doing that in the past. People have started buying things online they would never have done in the past. So if I put that into our context in the insurance industry, how do we then make what we're already doing is looking at how we make underwriting decisions a lot faster. So, we traditionally might have taken weeks. We can almost do that with our automated tools within a matter of minutes. So I think it's an exponential growth of those kind of capabilities, which make, being the shock absorbers in these situations much easier.
Being Swiss, we usually like to end up on a positive note and on an optimistic note. So for you, what's the most positive lesson that you have drawn as a company or maybe personally from this crisis we just went through and we're not out of it yet?
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're right. You say we aren't out of it, and I think there's still more learnings to come. But I think both from a personal and an organizational perspective, the thing that I think has been a real positive is the resilience. The resilience and the flexibility of both organization, how quickly we've been able to pivot, how we've been able to help other organizations and provide information, and also individually in our home lives, how we've quickly had to adapt and adjust to new situations and environments, often at very short notice. So I think it just shows the resilience and the flexibility of humanity and how quickly we can do things.
Resilience is really something that we have heard over and over again in this interview series. Mm-hmm. And this is, I think, a very positive way of ending this interview. Thank you so much, Pravina Ladva, for this fascinating talk. And I wish you all the best in the further transformation process of Swiss Re for the future. Let's hope it will be a future with less pandemics and a little bit more fun, but we'll see. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Nice to talk to you. Bye.